Okay, so welcome everyone to the next episode of Leading with Gen AI. It's just Geoff and Pat today. Rob's away somewhere on a beach, although I don't know why he's gone away because it's plus 27 in Finland and it's plus 22 in the water. So I hope it's as warm where you are, Geoff.
Certainly has been. Yeah, it's a little bit cooler today, but yeah, it's similar sort of temperatures in the UK this week. Yeah, for sure.
Excellent. Excellent. So I understand you've got a couple of interesting subjects on your mind. So let's kick off with the first one, shall we?
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's talk through. So OpenAI has been making some acquisitions. One of which probably we could dive into a bit more than the other one. So this acquisition of Rockset is the first one. It's just is a data processing company, and some of the thinking behind this is that is this going to take them into that search engine category? And there's a bit of there's quite a bit of chat about that. I think it's probably fair to say when you look at Perplexity and the whole search experience, within the next, I don't know how many years, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, probably tops. I think we're going to be using things like Claude, ChatGPT, and so on, our large language models. They're going to be that entry point into the world. So whereas today we might go to Google to search for stuff, I think our entry point is going to be through our ChatGPT type interface. So it kind of makes sense that they'd acquire a data processing company in that kind of way, perhaps. But it is that sort of entry point. I don't know. What do you think on it? That?
Yeah, I don't know as much about this one. I haven't thought as much about this one as the second one you were going to come to. So I don't know if you want to tee that one up.
Yeah. I'll go into that one. So I'll put you on the spot slightly there with the
Yeah,
rock
you
set
put
one.
me on the
Yeah, it
spot.
was more
No
about,
pressure, and
but
I failed.
actually, but actually, Pat, I think the two actually are really well related together, and it's really interesting to look at the strategic nature of these acquisitions by OpenAI because they both come to this point that our worlds are going to be driven, managed, whatever way you look at it, by our chosen large language model, whichever one that is. So, the future of searches, I will probably go to ChatGPT on my phone, on my desktop, to go and search for information I'm after. And probably the best example of what that looks like is that Perplexity experience where you say, this, and it gives you a contextual answer that it's got there. But that leads into the other one, which is around this other acquisition, which is this company called Multi, which is a screen sharing technology. And you sort of look at, why does OpenAI need a bit of technology that shares screens and that kind of stuff? And it's interesting that they actually had this apparently advertised as a role. They were hiring to get someone into a very similar position. I was reading this just this morning. So they've obviously not managed to hire someone into it, and this has been described as an acqui-hire of Multi, because what they really wanted was to acquire not just the technology but the all the people on the team as well. And it's only a small company. I think it's only a handful of people who work there. But it kind of goes into where is OpenAI going to go with this in the ChatGPT experience, and it kind of gets you thinking that this could be into this kind of agentic future where you're going to have these virtual colleagues. So it might be, imagine if you're, an SME, for example, you don't have a full-time marketing person, but you could have an agentic marketing consultant who can join into your sessions and all of that kind of stuff. It could be actually you work for a large enterprise, and every large enterprise I've ever worked with, they don't have enough people in the legal team to be able to go and sit in on every single discussion. But you could have the legal agent that is trained, customized, however you describe it, in the for the risk appetite, the legal appetite for that large firm. And that could then come and sit in and participate on all the procurement calls, for example, all the commercial discussions you're having with certain types of clients and that kind of stuff. And you could imagine that agent is going to jump in to the conversation and participate as like a virtual colleague. So where does screen sharing fit into this? Well, what do we do? What have you just done, Pat? We share screens with each other all the time, and we share information. And it takes a bit of a leap in your mind to get to this next stage. But your virtual legal, marketing, IT, whomever colleague could then say to you, let me share my screen. And it could share with you what it's been thinking up. And if you think about where, what we saw with ChatGPT 4.0 in the launch, that the tech that hasn't come into the public domain yet, but what they showed in all the launch videos, you see all the other stuff where there's that advanced reasoning going on. Yes, so we're not that far away, really. So you can imagine that ChatGPT 4.0, when we get the full version of it, with that kind of level of reasoning that's in there, it could absolutely say, let me share my screen. And it's got a virtual desktop it can share with you and share what it's thinking, what its ideas are. But I don't know, just a sort of out there thoughts as to where this will go.
Yeah, I mean, the kind of possibilities are quite profound for this, and also some of the risks. Actually, I had a bit of fun with this one because I asked ChatGPT before what could be the opportunities, implications, and risks of, screen sharing capabilities, and then it just gave me this. I dumped it into whimsical, but the thing that interests me are, what are some of the possibilities in terms of, if you've got a whole bunch of people in your team, wherever they're sitting, interacting with your own screen and interacting with the activities that you are performing, as well as possible agents, then, you could probably achieve dramatic productivity improvements in terms of some workflows, but it could also have a lot of serious implications in terms of privacy, and also what are some of the risks that it came up with down here? Security concerns, unauthorized access, all that kind of stuff, and the potential also for over collaboration. So if you got all kinds of people, including your management, various levels of management, and people from across other teams, and maybe even it's extended to partners and customers and suppliers, things like that, then there's going to be an awful lot of there's going to be a massive increase in traffic around your desktop. So, but I think it's fascinating to see where it's going. The other thing that's interesting, just as you pointed out, is the number of acquisitions that OpenAI is making to build on their capabilities. So you can see them extending now more and more deeper into the enterprise, and probably transforming the way work is done as well.
Yeah, I love the way, Pat, first of all, that you've used ChatGPT to explain how it might use a potential acquisition. What would be interesting would be just to go and benchmark that against what Claude's got to say about OpenAI and why they might need the screen sharing capability in Gemini and so on, and just see what the answers look like, whether you get a biased answer coming out of ChatGPT today. I like that bit down there about over collaboration. That's an interesting one to think on, isn't it? It's like the paperclip problem internally for an organization. The idea that the problem with AI, if it goes off, and the benefit of people who've not heard that example before, the danger is that the paperclip problem is a future artificial superintelligence that's got loads of control over manufacturing processes and all this kind of stuff, suddenly gets given a task to go and create as many paperclips as it possibly can, and it all goes rogue, takes over the world. It takes over all the nuclear, all the power, and then just starts building tons and tons of paperclips. So that over collaboration is a really interesting one, because a variation on that is what happens when we get into an agentic future where you're not the primary reader of your mailbox. Everything that comes in is your agent that then processes it and does something with it. And that agent might go, oh, Pat's asked me for this, so I'll send him this information back. But what happens if you get an agent that's answering your mailbox as well? And our agents just sit there chatting to each other, burning tons of CPU cycles and power and all of this kind of stuff. So the potential for over collaboration isn't just human to machine; it's machine to machine as well. I guess that would be in there.
If you took this to the extreme, could this then cause the disappearance of the laptop? Why would you even need a desktop? I mean, if you just got agents talking to agents, then effectively you don't need this kind of working interface anyway. But I don't know. Hopefully the humans are in the loop somewhere.
The humans are in the loop somewhere. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a bit like being a director versus a doer, isn't it? We just need to direct things like, we need a strategy for this. We need to go and build a marketing plan for that. And you just specify what it is that you want, and the agents go off and do the rest of it, and then share their screen back with you to show you what what they've done. But I do think it's super interesting, and I think it's going to get into this, all those implications there around enhanced collaboration, real time problem solving, and so on, knowledge transfer, because humans, we work really, really well with being able to share screens and information with each other. So that's already proven that it works. So if you could have an advanced reasoning large language model that can share a screen back to you, you can imagine how good that is and how powerful that'll be to be able to explain something to you. So I think it's a really interesting direction, really interesting.
I think it's also going to change the kind of the cost dynamics of a small business, or a startup, for example. So, if you've got 2 or 3 people, then and they're all collaborating in this much more dynamic way on their own, each other's desktops and through agents, then I think they're going to need a lot less money to actually spin off.
Yeah, well, this comes closer, doesn't it, to the concept of the solopreneur unicorn, doesn't it? Where somebody will be able to build a company doing that kind of stuff. And if you've just got a bunch of agents, imagine there's just one guy or girl running a company as the director of it, and they've got a marketing agent that is like a marketing manager who goes off and does stuff. It's got a dev team, which is just a bunch of agents. I could totally see that happening. And then you all come together and they share screens with you and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So given the trajectory we've been on since November 2022, do you see, us having this as a standard working practice by the end of 2025? This kind of capability? Do you think it's going to start seeping in fast?
Yeah, I always hate giving time frames on stuff, but I can't.
You're on the spot, Geoff. Come on.
I know, and so let's think that through step by step. So, given what we saw ChatGPT 4.0 could do in that demo day that OpenAI did a couple of months back to try and usurp Google and Gemini, it's got an advanced level of reasoning. It can have a conversation with you. That was truly amazing. That was one of the most remarkable things out of it, is that kind of that reasoning, that conversational AI that was going on. So on that basis, could that be? And given that they said it's due for launch probably later this year, is the best indication we've all been given. By the end of 2025, why not? We look at how much it's changed since November 2022, right? We're not quite 2 years into this. I think people talk a lot about where's GPT-5 and the GPT-5 class LLM. Do we actually need the GPT-5 class LLM? Is it a GPT-4 point something class LLM is sufficient to do what we need it to? And actually, it's just about being able to give it additional capabilities like sharing screens, like being able to act as an agent to take on tasks for us and that kind of stuff. So I sat here right now, I can't see any reason why that wouldn't be possible by the end of 2025.
And I guess any form of screen sharing would be multimodality. So you'd have the ability to interact with your voice, with other people's screens and workflows and things like that. Not just obviously moving the mouse around.
Pat, that's a really good point, isn't it? Because in the desktop software that OpenAI released for ChatGPT 4.0, that's one of the key things it's got in there is screenshot. So you can take a shot of your screen and share it with the LLM, and it will comment on it. So it's kind of both ways around, isn't it? It's sharing a virtual screen with you to show you something, and you sharing your screen with the LLM. And I know we're talking ChatGPT, but there's no reason why Claude, Gemini, and so on won't be able to do the same thing as well. But you could imagine IT support. You're having a technical issue. Somebody raises a ticket. There's no human involved other than the person who's got the problem, the original requester. You could do a screen share with an agent, an LLM-based agent, that then says, "Okay, just show me what the problem is." And you click on the screens and whatever it is, and it goes, "Okay, great. Let me show you how to solve this." That I think definitely by the end of 2025. Why wouldn't we have that as well?
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how different types of commercial organizations, whether it's a startup, a solo entrepreneur, SME, and a corporate, start spinning this up. But then also whether there's going to be a gap opening up between kind of corporate or sorry, commercial world and the public sector, because I should think that the public sector would be a lot more cautious and nervous about deploying this kind of capability as well in some of their services, although it could also help to accelerate and solve a lot of critical services as well much faster, maybe on emergency services or police or whatever. So watching the different dynamics of how this could work its way into different types of organizations is going to be fun.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I mean, it's just so exciting, and the speed at which this is all moving at is really quite incredible. So, yeah, good. I mean, it's good to see and see where all of this is going to end up. Do we want to talk about Apple and what those guys are up to as well? Was that the other thing we can chat through? Yeah. So, I mean, it's really interesting to see what's happening with Apple, right? So the WWDC, the Worldwide Developer Conference, where they made these announcements, they've got their collaboration with OpenAI, where they're going to basically back off Siri requests that they can't handle themselves. It's just, I think, just unpacking kind of what all this means. Now the dust has settled a little bit since WWDC. What sort of started to come through there is that it was rumored in the last week that Apple had a deal they'd done with Meta. They then backpedaled on that and said they didn't, probably because there was a bit of a backlash because people were saying, I wouldn't trust Meta, but I would trust Apple. And I think Apple have done a brilliant job, within the context of being one of those big global tech firms. They've done a brilliant job of making privacy and trust one of their key sort of USPs, haven't they? So they've obviously been very, very careful about how they do that, the way they went to great lengths to describe how and when they'd use ChatGPT or GPT as to back off requests to and that kind of thing. But what sort of comes through, and I think I'd be interested what you think about this, Pat, is that what Apple's done very, very well, one of their biggest revenue generators is the App Store. And what do? Is what is your phone these days? It's a gateway device, isn't it? It's like whatever you want to do. I'm going on holiday on Saturday. All my boarding cards will be on my phone. The holiday company I'm traveling with has got an app, and all the details and flight updates and everything is in there. So I use that app. I've got the ChatGPT app on my phone, so on and so on and so on. So, Apple's role in all of this is really as that gateway device. And I wonder whether, they see themselves as being the kind of AI store. So, whilst we could all criticize Siri and how poor it is, and is it going to be that much better? Maybe that's not where Apple are going here. And what Apple are trying to say is actually, whatever LLM it is that you favor, whether it's Claude, whether it's ChatGPT, whatever, you can use that through your Apple device. And then with these new on-phone chips for accelerating AI effectively, that then leads them, enables them to sell more hardware. Because the problem you've got these days is you don't really need to change your phone that often because it works, right? And it's only if you seriously damaged it or something that you're actually going to bother to upgrade it. So how do they create the impetus for people to want to upgrade their phones? I can't see anything. If a new iPhone comes out, it sort of passes me by. I'm not really that bothered about it. But if a new iPhone comes out that's got these AI chips in it, that's now going to be an AI accelerator on my phone, actually, that could be interesting, and that might make me go and purchase a new phone. But I don't know. What do you reckon?
Yeah, exactly. I think it basically transfers. Well, it just enhances the capabilities of your phone. It gives it even more functionality if you can, really, especially some of the new modalities that are coming through. Once they start adding the ability to do maybe more scientific mathematical capability, simulation, creating 3D scans, this kind of thing. I think that makes your device even more valuable, whether it's an iPhone or whether, we're talking about Apple here, obviously, but probably you see the same kind of capabilities rolling out across Android ecosystem as well eventually. But and the other interesting thing is, I think a few months ago or so, we started seeing some of these small devices appearing, like the Rabbit, the Rabbit device, this little orange thing that you spoke to, you had to carry. But really, I think that why would you have one of those if you have your iPhone and you have all of this additional capability anyway on that? Because you have to carry both anyway. The interesting thing is what you touched on around the AI is going to be more powerful. It's going to kind of drive more capability, but how do you actually make that connection between the AI model, or sorry, the language model, and the need for a user to buy and invest another 1,400 or 1,500 pounds to buy an upgrade the next time the new iPhone comes out? And I think at the same time you've got this dynamic where models are becoming smaller as well, and they're becoming compressed, and you can run them on a smartphone or whatever. Some of these open source ones certainly. So that's going to be an interesting kind of tug of war to watch between the smaller, more consumable, cheaper models that don't require you to upgrade your phone versus Apple's needs to really sell more devices as well as services.
Yeah, for sure. And it does look like that's kind of going to be the way they're going to go. I mean, I feel Apple sort of lost that innovator's edge. There's an effect that seems to happen on these large companies where when the original founders or innovators move on, Steve Jobs obviously no longer with us, Larry and Sergey not involved day to day at Google, they tend to sort of lose their way a little bit, don't they? And just become, the innovation edge, the sharpness there sort of falls away. And you kind of look at Apple and you sort of think, Tim Cook's done a very good job with it, but he seemed to be more of because he came from that coup role, he's more of an administrator, than an innovator. And actually, that sort of fits with what perhaps Apple are going to do here. Is they're going, look, we've just got this incredible market penetration. We've got amazing trust that we've built up with our customers. Let's just leverage what we've got. All these AI companies, whether it's Anthropic, whether it's OpenAI, and so on, they want to get their LLMs out to customers, and who's got the greatest penetration is Apple in the US market, certainly, and 50% penetration pretty much everywhere else.
So on that, there is one other aspect of Apple that interests me, and that is their vision, or their heads-up display thing, because that is possibly where some of the larger enterprise customers or designers, those kind of folks, would seriously benefit from having this kind of ChatGPT, Siri super capability built into that headset and the whole experience around that. So they came out with that headset last year. There wasn't a lot of uptake, but perhaps that was more like a I don't know, Trojan horse or something. But I think that these two things are going to start coming together.
Yeah, definitely. And if you look at, what the Ray-Bans you can get now as well, I think it needs to be down to something that doesn't look odd when people wear it, and then more people wear it. So it was that, I think Google had the right idea with Google Glass, but nobody really trusts Google from a privacy perspective. So that was kind of part of the backlash, wasn't it? You wouldn't let someone come into your house or your office wearing those glasses. So you've got to overcome that part of it. But yeah, why not? I mean, it's been long rumored as in for the last few months, that Johnny Ive, ex-chief designer from Apple, is working with OpenAI on some kind of device. And they talked about it's these kind of AirPods that we're both wearing, a version of that that's got a camera in it to give vision to the LLM, which is where all these things like the Rabbit R1 and all these pins and this kind of stuff will sort of fall by the wayside, because this is a much more discreet device to wear. And if you put vision into it, not vision so you've got it overlaying and you've got like some sort of augmented reality, but vision so you can allow an LLM to see what you're seeing, then you've got something there as well. And back to the point you made earlier, Pat, is you need the local sort of number crunching, if you like. If you've got an upgraded iPhone that's got chips in it, AI chips in it, then you've got that locally with that user and you can process it locally. You don't need tons of bandwidth and put it back to the cloud to process.
Yeah, this all brings us back to this question of trying to figure out what's OpenAI's next move or next 3 or 4 moves, because they are pushing the boundaries out on their capabilities and the different markets that they're touching and different types of organizations that they're really affecting. It's really interesting to be part of that kind of journey from the user side.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's deeper integration, isn't it, into everything? And it's just the fact that you're going to be able to take your phone out, as we saw in those OpenAI demos for ChatGPT 4.0. You're going to be able to show it things, and it'll be able to tell you what it is that you're looking at. It's going to be able to today. One of the great use cases in the enterprise space is using transcription, whether that's in Teams or another transcription service, transcribe it and summarize what was said and it heard being said on a call. What about summarizing what you did? When you went and met this person, and how they looked, how it seemed they felt. I've got a construction client I'm working with, and they need to go out to do site visits in order to bid for the work they work on. And one of the things we're interested to try when ChatGPT 4.0 comes out is that they can just walk around a building with ChatGPT 4.0 and get it to talk about what the building is, and then they can from that summarize what the type of construction work is that they need to do. And if you can get that information into text-based format, then you could start to put that into an agent workflow to then say, okay, we can build a proposal for the customer now because of that. So where that goes for the future is they could send out somebody who isn't a particularly, doesn't need to be decades of experience working in the industry. You could send out a sort of younger person or person with lesser experience just to go and walk around a site. Or they could, just get somebody to do that for them. Just say to the client, can you just walk around the phone, video it all, and we're going to produce a quote for you from that.
Yeah. Or stick it on a drone or a robot.
Absolutely. There's another way of doing it as well. Yeah. I mean, interesting. There was a company I met here in my hometown of Brighton recently who's got a drone beyond line of sight, because the problem you've got with drones is they're not licensed for use beyond line of sight, except in certain cases. So what these guys have done is they've developed a whole augmented reality system based around using game engines and all that kind of stuff to be able to do beyond line of sight with drones. So to your point there, Pat, you'd better do that, send the drone off and go, right, survey these crops in that field, survey that railway line, those power lines, and it could just do that autonomously. And then the LLM could then interpret everything it's seen and give you a summary to say, on this railway line, these points at this junction, here's the GPS coordinates. It's looked up what points those are on the system, have got where of 60% you need to send a maintenance crew out to do it. Why wouldn't you do that? That's just such a great use case, isn't it?
That's a great point. Actually, I'm on the board of advisors of a Helsinki-based startup called AirHub. Slight plug here. These guys, I'll put a link in. And what they do is they actually develop this heads-up display for drone pilots that handles beyond visual line of sight or going around buildings and all this kind of stuff. I need to talk to them about exactly what you just mentioned. So thanks for the tip there, Geoff.
There we go. I mean, it's such an exciting future, isn't it? And it's just all these use cases for all these different things that you can do with it. It's just incredible, absolutely incredible. I mean, what a time to be alive and to be involved in this industry.
Absolutely. Anything else on your mind, Geoff?
No, that's it. I think those are the ones that's kind of stood out to talk through. And I'm sure by next week there'll be loads more stuff because this market is moving so quickly.
Indeed. Well, I always learn so much from you, Geoff. It's great to talk to you again. And we'll be back soon with the next Leading with Gen AI podcast. So thank you very much.